Hi, this is Donn Felker. I'm a senior consultant with Magenic Technologies, and in this screencast we're going to cover how you can separate a WCF project into separate projects which might contain the contracts, the actual web service, and then actually the service host. So jumping right into things, if we look on the right hand side of our screen here, we'll see that we have three separate projects. We have a contract project which houses our contracts. We have a service domain, which houses actually our definition of our service. And we have the service host. This is actually where we actually are going to host our WCF service. Inside of the contracts project, we have a couple domain interfaces. These things are just used just to extract an interface to decouple things later on. They're not actually any data contracts. But inside of here, the contract for the service is inside of the IORDER service interface. And if we actually look at the IORDER service interface, we'll see that it implements the service contract attribute and the operation contracts. This is just a simple service that's going to submit an order or get a total for an order based upon an order ID, just for example purposes. Now if we go to our service domain, which is located here, this is where actually the concrete implementations of the objects from the contracts are implemented. We have a customer, a line item, and an order. Each one of these implement their specific interface. And then we have the order service, which implements its IORDER service. Now, the customer, line item, and order are also data contracts. We cannot put a data contract attribute on an interface. It just, WCF doesn't allow it. So they're actually inside of these files here, which I will show you now. So in the customer class, you can see it implements from iCustomer, which is this iCustomer up here. Data contract on the customer, and then the data members for the corresponding objects. Excuse me, with corresponding properties. And then we have the order service, which just implements IORDER service. And if we look at the IORDER service as we had previously, we'll see that it implements an operation contract and the service contract to specify that it is a service. Again, this order service right here is located right here in this project. And now our final project is our service host. Our service host houses one file, and that's the program CS file. In this instance, we're going to be housing WCF in a simple command line utility. It's just going to pop up into a little command line window, and you're going to see that it says press enter to terminate the host. Nothing fancy, that's all it does, and we're telling it the type of service host that we want to run is order service. Inside of here, what we've had to reference is the WCF separated contracts, because that's where the contract is at. And then we've also had to reference the service domain. This is where the actual concrete implementation lives. Now in order to do that, we're also going to need a app.config file for the service model information. So taking a look at that, we'll see here that we're just implementing a basic order service, and the configuration is stored below, just default service 1 behavior. I'm giving it a base address of localhost 9090 order service, basic WS HTTP binding, and now I have to tell the contract exactly where it's located. And so I'm going to tell it to look inside WCF separated projects.contracts.service.IORDER service. So it's looking inside of the contracts assembly for that service itself, for the contract. Basic metadata exchange here, and the behavior is going to allow us to include the service endpoint information. Pretty much that's all we're really going to need to get this going and separate it into different projects. So now if we press F5, the project will start up and run in the command line window. You see the service host is up and running. So how can we tell actually that this is up and running? What we can do is just hop back into our app config real quick, and let's grab our local host here. We're going to start up the WCF test client. The WCF test client is located in the Visual Studio installation folder. We're going to add a service, and you see I've added it before. Click OK. It's going to go find the service, download the information, create a client for it, basically running SVC util behind the scenes, including creating a proxy so we can actually get to it. So you can see here the submit order is not supported because it takes an object in to submit the order, but what we can do is we can actually get a total for an order. And so we're going to just give it a random number like 55, and then we're going to invoke it. Wait a second, and then we should get a response back specifying how much our order was for order number ID 55. It's running behind the scenes, and there we go. We're getting back at 96.877. This value that's returned here is inside of the order service. So if we go inside the order service, we'll see here that I'm just returning a random number and multiplying it by 100. Normally you'd go to a database, some repository to get your order total information. Same thing with the submit order. You do some work with the order that you need to do to submit it. But in this instance, what I've been able to show you is that you can separate each one of these different types of information in WCF into contracts to your service domain and to your service host. Sometimes different companies like to separate them and reuse the contracts or reuse the service domain as DTOs in their application. If that's a good thing to do or not, that's up for discussion. Probably at another screencast or even many blogs out there discuss this type of topic. But in this instance, you can now see how you can separate these things out into different projects if you wish to do so. Until next time, thanks a lot.